I'm feeling I want to introduce a little bit here about consciousness.
Sure.
We're moving very fast through ideas, but I feel like it kind of fits straight in, because I think that's the key. For me, and this has been, as you already know, but I'm going to say it anyway, which is a big shift for me from doing what everybody does. You know, it's what else can you do? Of taking on ideas, deep ideas from beautiful people, some alive, some dead, who are doing their best to understand this incredible mystery.
Yeah.
And one of those ideas is it's all consciousness, and that's very big in the
That was also,
Neovatians.
I should have added that to the bottom line of what the message was. Pure awareness.
Pure awareness or consciousness, one of those words. And sometimes they're differentiated, often they're not. And it's taken a long time for me to try and... I've had for ages, surely consciousness is relational. Surely consciousness is a relationship between a subject and an object. I'm conscious of you because we're subject and object. So it doesn't sound like it's very non-dual, because that must be the thing which is both subject and object. So I will maybe get into that whole metaphysical thing in a minute, but the thing I wanted to try and get to straight away was the obviousness which now seems there to me, which is that consciousness, when we're conscious of something, it's because we process it in a different way. And this is much more like it's being influenced by neuroscience but you know, people like Carl Jung, and I think common sense. You know, the mere fact that I go to sleep at night and I'm not conscious, and I wake up and I am conscious, it's like what this word is referring to is what you pay attention to in a very, very focused way. So I've been completely focused on you. I haven't been thinking about the toaster and the kettle and the rest of the kitchen and out the window. And I am now. And as I look out the window, now I'm conscious of it. Now I'm not.
Exactly.
And so consciousness seems like everything's in relationship. The whole evolution is of relationship. The one in relationship to itself. At a certain part in that process where you get to biological complexity, the systems are now taking in information from their informational ecology, so much information. And that information, some of it, really matters because it's a matter of life and death.
Right.
Because with biology, you've now got life and death. And a lot of it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's just the same old, same old. And what it looks like to me that is happening is that systems are prioritizing information, and that ability to prioritize some information over others will become what we experience as consciousness, which is like a beam which goes, process that in high definition, process that in high definition, and everything else is processed in lower definition, uses up less energy, less bandwidth. I'm using obviously computer analogies.
What we always say, what you focus on is what grows in your, what becomes more vivid is what you place your attention on.
Exactly.
So I'm fascinated by the way that you sort of revision this. I'm still sort of wrapping my mind around it, because as consciousness, not as a thing, but as a process.
Yeah,
and I know that it's compelling. It's still hard to make that shift because I've been so sort of immersed in this idea that there's a consciousness, or that you are consciousness itself.
Yes.
But you're saying that's not really.
I actually think it's now there is no such thing as consciousness.
Yeah,
itself.
And that's where I'm like. Well.
I mean, but partly it's confusing because the word is used in opposite ways, which is really confusing. So sometimes consciousness means everything you're conscious of.
Right.
Sometimes it refers to the kind of psyche, particularly. That's consciousness. And sometimes it refers, and in Neo-Advaita, it refers specifically and often to a presence, which is this abstract thing, which is just pure
the ultimate,
consciousness.
The absolute, right?
It's just pure. It's the ground of everything. And it's the pure presence of consciousness. And all of these are appearances arising in it. We can get into that maybe in the metaphysics. But I see no evidence at all to think that that is true. I've had experiences which made me end up there, but now I think there's a much better way to interpret them.
Right.
Which we can have a play with as well. But the bit that I feel like I want to just pick up on, all these ideas interconnect, don't they? And they're is that once you get that, if you just, even if if people listening to our conversation are very into non-duality, just as an experiment, just go, look, where you put your attention, it's vivid. You are conscious of it. Where you don't, it's all being processed unconsciously. So imagine that consciousness is a very, 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 very emergent level of relationship, which is, that relationship has been there right from the start. It's all unidual. So it's not like it didn't come from, it came from nowhere. It's been growing the whole time. It's just at the biological level, it becomes sensation, conscious sensation, focus sensation, and then from that is going to come psyche. Also, now it's imagination and thought, and most of that's unconscious, or your thoughts happening. And thank goodness, you know, there's too many of them.
Yeah,
and then the little bit we're doing on the top here, like Carl, Carl Jung's thing, is tip of the iceberg, is that's conscious, and we move it about. As soon as you've got that, I think you can start approaching all of those spiritual awakening experiences in a different way.
Yeah.
Because what I think happens for most people, what happened for me, to do that, is when you go deeply into a state, I think about most recent time it happened to me most dramatic in my life, about 2 years ago, where like you described, like there's just no Tim.
Yeah.
There's just light actually in this experience, just unbelievable, you know, but at the time it's not like, oh, there's light. There's nothing. It's just like, wow, afterwards, but during as well. But there's no definition, and there's nothing to change. So there's no sense of time because there's it's just presence of this. And these what are called samadhi states, and there's a whole range of them.
Yeah.
Which different people experience, and I've had a few. So that when that happens early on, and then you come out of them, it is very tempting to think, oh, well, how do I get back? What's in the way? Well, this fucker's in the way. Tim's in the way.
Exactly.
Because he wasn't there. And if someone comes along to you and goes, you know what's in the way? You are. You know, and especially if the you is begun, whether it's done in a negative way, you've got an ego, you're grasping, you're out for yourself, you know, and who can't look at themselves and go, oh yeah.
And if you're really down on yourself, you're depressed.
You're depressed, even worse.
It's really gonna...
It's like you're a bit broken. It's like, oh, I am like that. Actually, you're right. I've got to get rid of that. And then you start off on that whole journey. And it's like the idea is when I can not have this sense of self, I can enter this blissful oneness.
Yeah.
Once you get this other perspective, it just flips. Because now what you're saying is, I had the experience where that beam of being conscious, for once I stopped focusing on me and I went, or whether it just happened spontaneously or whether I did it deliberately, I was able to focus on something more emergent I'd never focused on before, like the oneness of everything. And it was amazing. But I was focusing on it. I just wasn't conscious of myself. Tim was there, which is why when I came back, there he was.
This is a really important point that I've been trying to share with people more, because I think this is the huge question when you ask, but it seemed like I wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
So what happened? And you're saying it's not that your ego died or it disappeared, you just weren't paying attention.
I'm saying even,
to it.
yes, and even more than that. I mean, I'm definitely saying that.
Yeah.
And even more than that, I'm saying, your individual self had reached such a level of maturity that it could be conscious of something transcendent.
Wow, yeah.
And if you keep nurturing and maturing and evolving your individual self, that can happen more and more and more.
Yeah.
The complete opposite of annihilating it.
For sure.
Because it's the thing which will allow you to focus beyond it.